there is a man standing outside your window at 2 in the morning. You do not know why he is there. He does not know why he is there. He tells himself he just happened to be passing, that it is a coincidence, that he feels nothing, certainly not obsession, certainly not the need to be near the man who slept with his wife. This is how the eternal husband begins. A man being followed by someone who has every reason to hate him, and who cannot fully admit, even to himself, that hatred is exactly what he feels. Dostoevsky wrote this novella in 1870. It is less than 200 pages, and in those 200 pages, he performs one of the most precise psychological dissections in all of literature, cutting open the human capacity for self-deception, for buried rage, for the strange, twisted way that humiliation can bind two people together more tightly than love ever could. You will recognize someone in this book. You may not enjoy the recognition. The Eternal Husband is not Dostoevsky's most famous work. It sits in the shadow of Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, and Demons. Most people have never heard of it. This is a mistake. Sigmund Freud, who almost never praised novelists, said that Dostoevsky understood the human unconscious more deeply than any psychologist of his era. And nowhere is that more true than here. The story is simple on the surface. Velchaninov, a charming, dissolute man in his late 30s, is visited in St. Petersburg by Pavel Pavlovich Trusotsky, a man whose wife, Velchaninov, had an affair with nearly a decade ago. The wife is now dead. Trusotsky has come to the city with his young daughter, a daughter who, it becomes increasingly clear, may actually be Velchaninov's child. And the two men begin to circle each other, visiting, drinking together, almost becoming friends, while underneath, something else entirely is happening, something neither of them can name or admit or escape. What Dostoevsky is really writing about is not adultery. It is not even betrayal. It is the psychology of self-deception. The extraordinary lengths human beings will go to avoid seeing themselves clearly. And the way unacknowledged emotion does not disappear, it goes underground and comes back wearing a disguise. Let us start with Velchaninov, because he is the character most of us will recognize first, and most uncomfortably. Velchaninov is intelligent, perceptive, socially gifted. He can read other people with remarkable accuracy. He knows exactly what Trusotsky is feeling, why he has come, what drives his strange behavior. He analyzes the situation with the clarity of a surgeon, and yet he cannot see himself at all. He cannot see that he ruined a man's marriage and possibly fathered a child he never acknowledged. He cannot see that his charm, which he has always thought of as a gift, is actually a weapon he uses without conscience. He cannot see that the guilt eating at him, the insomnia, the anxiety, the sense of being watched, is not a mysterious illness. It is the entirely predictable consequence of living without honesty or accountability. Dostoevsky gives us a word for this condition. He calls it chronic lying, not lying to others, but the deeper, more destructive habit of lying to oneself, constructing a version of your own story in which you are always reasonable, always the victim of circumstances, always acting understandably given what you were given. Velchaninov is a masterclass in this. He is a man of tremendous self-awareness about everything except himself, and Dostoevsky uses him to show us something that cuts very close to home. Intelligence is not the same as self-knowledge. In fact, intelligence without honesty is often the most sophisticated form of self-deception available. A smart person can construct a more convincing story about why they are not to blame than a foolish person ever could. The question this character puts to you directly is, what is the story you are telling yourself about your own life, and how much of it is true? Now meet Pavel Pavlovich Trusotsky. He is the most fascinating character in the novella, and the most psychologically original creation in all of Dostoevsky's work, which is saying something extraordinary. Trusotsky is what Dostoevsky calls the eternal husband, a man whose entire identity is organized around being a husband. Not this husband to this woman, but a husband in the abstract, a man who only exists in relation to someone else, who has no self outside of that relational role. When his wife was alive, Trusotsky was devoted to her. Utterly, completely devoted. Even as she was unfaithful, even as the whole town likely knew, even as he himself almost certainly knew on some level without allowing himself to know. His devotion was not strength, it was an avoidance of himself. As long as he was wholly focused on her, he never had to ask, "Who am I when there is no one to orbit?" Now she is dead, and Trotsky is unmoored. He does not know who he is. He cannot grieve cleanly because his grief is tangled with humiliation, with rage, with the terrible question of whether his whole life was a lie. And so he seeks out Velchaninov, the man who wronged him. And he cannot decide, from 1 hour to the next, sometimes from 1 minute to the next, whether he wants to kill him or befriend him, whether to hate him openly or to seek from him some kind of strange absolution, whether the man who destroyed his life is his enemy or the only person who truly knows him. This is the most chilling insight in the book. Sometimes we are more intimately bound to the people who have hurt us than to anyone else in our lives, because they know what we are capable of feeling. They have seen us at our most vulnerable, and we cannot let go, not because we love them, but because releasing them would require releasing the story of ourselves as victims. And that story, as painful as it is also the thing that makes us feel real. There is a scene midway through the novella that is one of the most disturbing things Dostoevsky ever wrote, and he wrote some very disturbing things. Trotsky, drunk, takes out a razor. He is standing over the sleeping Velchaninov, and he almost uses it. He does not. He stops himself. He claims, afterward, that he does not know what he was doing, that he was not in his right mind, that it meant nothing. But Dostoevsky is showing us something that psychology would not formally describe for another 50 years, the return of the repressed. The way that emotion pushed down, denied, buried under politeness and performance and the civilized pretense that everything is fine, does not stay buried. It accumulates pressure. It looks for an exit, and when it finds one, it is usually at the worst possible moment, in the worst possible form. Trotsky has spent years, possibly his entire adult life, swallowing his rage, swallowing his humiliation, smiling at the people who pitied him, pretending he did not notice what everyone noticed, performing the role of the devoted, oblivious husband because the alternative, acknowledging the truth, was too annihilating to bear, and all of that swallowed feeling did not disappear. It became the razor in the dark. The lesson here is not dramatic. It is quiet and it is serious. Unexpressed emotion is not neutral. It does not stay still.